welcome back to another week of Pick'em. Week 8, the season winding down. We're going to learn about some teams maybe trying to clinch some playoff spots this week. Let's start with this week's first game, Lakeview at Big Rapids. Big Rapids suffered another tough loss last week to Bay City John and Glenn. Bob, how did they respond after having so many tough losses in a row? You got a team that they're pretty equal with as far as a talent level like Lakeview. How did they respond and get a win this week?
I think the first thing Big Rapids is going to have to do is play physical, match Lakeview's physicality. Lakeview's a very physical team. I mean, they beat up Morley Stanwood pretty good last week. I mean, matching hit for hit. Big Rapids has to match that. If they do, I think they're going to be fine, and I think they're going to win this week.
What about you, Brandon? Do you think that Lakeview it seems like it's a team that's starting to kind of emerge as, playing a little bit better than they were at the beginning of the year. Is this a reason to believe that Lakeview can pull off an upset here?
I think Lakeview has a good shot at coming in and showing Big Rapids how to be physical. Big Rapids is a physical team on defense. It's the offense that is really concerning. Lakeview can put up points. So it's going to be a tough game for Big Rapids to actually come out and play hard on both ends of the ball.
Next game we're looking at, Hesperia at Morley Stanwood. Hesperia kind of a surprise team at 4-3 right now. Morley Stanwood at 6-1. Hesperia, if they win their next 2 games, could clinch a playoff spot. Brandon, is there any reason to believe that Hesperia poses a threat to knock off Morley Stanwood this week?
There's always that threat to happen, but Morley Stanwood's a veteran team. They know what they can do. They've proven it the last couple weeks after their loss to Reed City, so they're ready to build up on their record and get ready for the playoffs.
Bob, do you feel like Morley Stanwood is going to take control, and are they, one of the top teams in the CSA? Do they have any reason to be scared, reason to believe that there could be an upset this week?
I think there's always that concern, especially since Hesperia's been playing better. I just don't think Hesperia has the athletes. They got 3 or 4 good athletes. They don't have enough that's going to match Morley. I think Morley is going to win this and try to rest players at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. I think Hesperia keeps this close for a half, and then Morley Stanwood turns it on like they typically have all season at this point. I've got Morley Stanwood winning by a couple touchdowns. The next game that we're looking at is White Cloud at Reed City. Not sure how much of an intro we need for this game. White Cloud's coming in, they're struggling, both in numbers, players, and talent against a Reed City team that is all but ensured itself a CSA title this year. Brandon, what can we expect from this game? I know that White Cloud is a team that's, shown a lot of character and fought through the season, but at the same time they're playing against, it's a pretty tall order to play against Reed City this week.
They're going to come to play. It's just going to be a tough game for them. Once again, their numbers are down, and Reed City's going to get ready for the playoffs here. Monty's going to rest his guys. He's going to work them, though, and they're going to be there to fight for a good game. So,
Bob, do you think, what can White Cloud take from a challenge like this, and what can Reed City take from a game like this where you got 2 teams that are on opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of talent and experience?
I think for White Cloud, it's building from next year. You're looking at, doing things better than you did the week before, and you're doing it against a quality opponent. For Reed City, I think this is a chance where they're going to get their second string in there and get them used to, real life, real game situations. Because, one injury and those guys are going to be in there. So I think that's what they're going to use this game for, is get those kids up to speed and just in case of an emergency.
Yeah, I agree. I've got Reed City winning this one big as well. Hopefully no injuries will occur for Reed City as they're going into the final weeks and then getting prepared for the playoffs. Next game we're taking a look at is Chippewa Hills versus Central Montcalm. Maybe the game of the week for high school games this week. Chippewa Hills coming off a tough loss to Reed City. Central Montcalm has been playing tight games pretty much all year. I would expect that this is going to be the case this week. Brandon, would you expect this to be another typically close game for Central Montcalm and a team like Chippewa Hills, who has shown that it can hang with some of the top teams in the area?
I think it's going to be a tough game for Chip. Central Montcalm is going to come in. They have a chance to punch their ticket to the playoffs this week. Chip's going to hang with them defensively. It's the offensive part of the game that's going to be a troublesome sort of mix for Chip Hills. So I expect to see Central Montcalm just pull out a squeaker.
Bob, do you think that Central Montcalm seems to be maybe a little bit higher level team than Chippewa Hills right now, but Chippewa Hills has definitely stayed together throughout this year. Any chance that Chippewa Hills pulls off the win this week?
Absolutely, and I wouldn't consider it a major upset either. I mean, I think Chippewa Hills is right there. They have to put points on the board. They have struggled with that all year. They're going to have a different quarterback in this week. Ty Schaefer's going to take over the reins. Played very well in the second half against Reed City. If they can put points on the board, they win. If they don't, they're going to lose. I mean, it sounds simplistic, but I think Central Montcalm wins this. But I wouldn't consider it an upset if Chip won.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Central Montcalm is going to win this game. It is going to be very low scoring. I expect maybe only a couple touchdowns in this game. The next game we're looking at is Everett at Mesik. Mesik is a team that has struggled all year. Everett almost pulled off maybe one of the biggest upsets of the year last week, falling by 1 point to Lake City, one of the top teams in the area. Brandon, do you feel like Everett has something to prove these last few weeks, or did they have some of the wind taken out of their sails last week with a really tough loss?
It was a tough loss to Lake City. Right now you have 2 weeks left, and over the next 2 weeks, Coach Craven's got some teams coming in, and they're going to go see Mesik this week. But that they can actually play with, they're better than, actually, when you look at statistics, they are a better team. And they can actually put a pounding on some of these guys here in the last 2 weeks.
Bob, Everett is a team that can't get to that 6-win plateau. What do they have to play for this week? And do you expect them to come out motivated against a team like Mesik?
Well, I think the rallying cry for the Wildcats this week is going to be getting 5 wins, which I know doesn't sound as good as 6, but that's a winning record. It's been a couple of years since Everett's had a winning record. That is something to go, hang your hat on for the seniors. And it also builds you for next year.
Yeah, I agree. I think 5-4 is a lot different than 4-5, regardless of whether you make the playoffs or not. I think Everett does win this game, wins this one big. Taking a look at the next game, we have McBain at Pine River. Pine River coming off a win, but they've got a tall order this week playing against the McBain team, one of the top teams in the state in their division. Brandon, is this a game that Pine River has a realistic chance of staying in the game with?
Until the clock starts ticking, probably. You got McBain, a powerhouse in the state right now, and next week you got Beale City coming. So it's going to be a tough 2 weeks for Pine River.
Yeah. Now, Bob, do you feel like Pine River, what are some of the things that they can work on, and what would consider to be a win against a team like the caliber of McBain this week?
First of all, for them to consider it a win, probably not get a running clock. I think this has a chance to getting a running clock pretty early if they could have one in the first half. I mean, McBain put a hurting on Beale City, who we all know is very good. So if they can keep it under 35, and I think if they can get points on the board, McBain has not given up a lot of points. If they can get some points on the board, keep it not a running clock, I think that's a win for them this week.
Yeah, I agree. Pine River doesn't have a bad defense. Their problem all year has been scoring points. I think you score some points against a team like McBain, that gives you a little bit of confidence going forward. All right, next game we're looking at is Brethren at Baldwin. Baldwin, a team that is kind of coming into its own as the season goes on. They've improved on both sides of the ball. Brandon, who do you feel, in a game like this where it's pretty evenly matched between these two teams, who has the advantage and who has more momentum going forward right now?
I think Baldwin has a good chance at coming out ahead on this game. They've had a tough season, but they, like you said, have improved on both sides of the ball, and they are the top cat champs right now. So,
yeah, big game for Baldwin coming in. This is a homecoming game for them. Do you feel like maybe Baldwin's inexperience has hurt them, or are these players starting to become a little bit more mature as the season goes on?
Obviously, Coach Bowles will say we're young. He says it. He even told me, yeah, I'm sure the people in the press, we're young and they're getting sick of it. The fact is that half their team is freshmen or players who haven't played football before, and it takes time to grow up. And I think you're starting to see them hit their stride here because they've gotten used to the varsity play. I think they're going to win this week, and I'm going to expect a shootout. Both teams are going to get into the 30s.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that people have really underestimated the season that Baldwin's had with freshmen and sophomores primarily competing at a varsity level and actually winning some games this year. I think it bodes really well for them in the future. I have them winning this week as well. A final high school game we're going to take a look at this week. Crossroads at Montebello. Montebella, a pretty solid team coming against a Crossroads team that has struggled. Brandon, what does Crossroads have to do to get some momentum going here in the last 2 weeks of the year?
They need to put some points on the board. They need to actually play a little defense, stop Montebella, and it's not going to be really stopping Montebella. It's going to be making sure that they do what they need to score some points and to actually hang with them. Not get a running clock in the first or second half, actually, but to actually go out there, compete, and find ways to improve.
Bob, is this a situation where Crossroads is kind of almost playing against itself in that they're working on fundamentals, they're trying to find places for guys to play, or do you treat Montebella as an opponent that you can beat?
I think this is, you hit the nail on the head. This is a game where they're playing against themselves. I don't think there's much game planning for Montebella outside of the basics. It's, hey, we got to learn how to block, we got to learn how to tackle. I'm going this spot on this play. And I think that's what they are focused on this week, and it's going to be a long road for them this week, but a good chance to work on those fundamentals.
To Crossroads' credit, this team hasn't quit despite a tough season. I think you're going to see them come out showing a lot of effort against Montebella. It won't be reflected in the scoreboard, but I think Crossroads is a team that has improved and taken some strides as the year's gone on. That does it for this week's edition of Pick'em. As always, make sure to check out www.bigrapidsnews.com for more information on these games, or check out the weekend edition of the Pioneer.